I'm holding the finished painting here, and this one taught me something important about colour. I didn't plan every wash from the start. I added more colour as I went, and it changed the whole feel of the scene. The drawing's simple. The cafe, the umbrellas, the chairs, the palm tree, and the boats behind. But it all looked a bit flat at first, so I started strengthening the colour in stages. A warmer wash in the cafe, richer reds in the chairs, a deeper blue in the sea, and suddenly the whole thing opened up. I also decided to do the chairs this bright yellow, and not the colour they were. And that's what today's video is about, how adding colour gradually can bring life into a painting without overthinking it. You just make small decisions one layer at a time. And if you've ever hesitated about pushing colour further, this is a great project to try. You'll see exactly where I chose to add strength and colour and why it works. So let's get into it, and I'll show you how those extra touches of colour made this scene come to life. Right, going to do a nice deep blue Mediterranean sky, French ultramarine, and cobalt blue, I should say, and a little bit of cerulean blue. The cerulean just takes a bit of the colour off. Looks a bit too false if it's just cobalt blue, in my opinion. Right, now what I'm going to do is come all the way down over the tree and the distant hills with this wash, and I'm leaving two white lines, which I've drawn the lines in pencil. I'm going to try and leave most of those as I come down with this wash. They're going to be the masts of the boat. I'm trying to do as little as possible here with white gouache and make it just watercolour. You can come down with the wash slightly wider, and then just adjust it slightly when it dries. Just keep the edge nice and wet. I mean, you can pre-wet this, although the colour won't be as intense. You need to make your paint a bit stronger. So, but I haven't wet this. I've just gone straight in and bringing this down over the tree and the tree trunk, and being mindful of this building on the left hand side, coming into that edge, and then going around these white umbrellas, which are going to be very much a feature of this painting. I'm using a size 4 mop from the Red Dot collection of Rosemary and Co. I'll give you the other brushes as we go. I'm probably using about half a dozen, about 6 in this particular painting. Now that's done, in with the same brush into cobalt turquoise, just pushing a little bit of that blue mixture into that cobalt turquoise, and then leaving a very slight white line there, which is going to be distant, whatever you want, boats, waves, but just breaking it up. I'll just give a feeling of movement in the distance here. Going around the people's heads on the left hand side there and bringing it across. Now the paper I'm using is Saunders Waterford 180 pounds, 180 pounds knot on this occasion, and it's at a slight angle, so the washes will run slightly. Now working my way around these boat shapes and the shoreline. Lots of paint. Don't be frightened to put lots of paint on. And then the same treatment here, doing these areas and leaving the masts clear of paint. Don't worry too much if you do go over the white. You can always do it with gouache at the end, white gouache. And there we are. Still thinking about where I can paint while all this is wet without drying anything off, and decided to go with burnt sienna and doing this side of the building there that comes down to the umbrella. Work the composition here so that it gives a nice silhouette. White umbrella, white umbrellas, light against dark, dark against light. The painter's friend. Lots of paint again. Keep it all nice and fluid. I'll show you in a minute what you do with the excess paint that builds up when you put a lot of paint on with a large brush like this. Stops you fiddling using a big mop as you go. You can do quite fine lines with this, so that's why I'm using it. Not once it starts to wear out, but at the moment, quite a new brush, and it's got a nice point on it. There's a couple of ways you can lose these pools of paint where it collects. You need to get rid of them because they'll just form them balloons that you get. But one way is to dry your brush out, just touch the puddles of paint there, or as I'm doing here, it's another way, going with a tissue and just touching it with the corner of the tissue. Don't push with the tissue because you'll take the other part of the painting out, and you don't particularly want to do that. You just want to leave a nice wash, nice flat wash there. Dipped into the green, which is sap green. And just darken that green up with a bit of Payne's grey. See how nice that looks with that white umbrella silhouetted like that. And then I'll put in a doorway here as well, which adds to the light against dark effect. You can see the composition is straightforward really. There's the cafe on the left there, and there's those umbrellas pulling you forward, and the chairs, and which will be bright red soon. Those strong red shapes, and the boats on the right, they're just sitting quietly behind. It's all built on simple angles and clear spacing, so the drawing really didn't need too much detail. Cadmium red, and just a little bit of green. Just toned it down with its complementary colour. Always have my colour wheel to hand when I paint, just to remind me of things like complementary colours, which I'll show you in a second. Just doing these chairs. Back into the cadmium yellow. And these were originally red like the other chairs, but I decided to just push the colour here, make them brightest yellow. Jean Brilliant. little bit of water. Well, quite a lot of water really. Just toning that down again a bit with some lavender. Going to do the shade side of these white umbrellas. Just thinking about doing areas that are not touching each other here, so I can just crack on with the painting without stopping to dry it, which I will do at some point. I use a dryer for that, which you won't see because I'll take that out of the film. Now with that mixture of Jean Brilliant and a little bit of lavender in there to just take some of the brilliance off it. Just want it to be an off-white quayside really. Don't want it white. The building's going to be predominantly white. And now I've dried that off, and I'm using a putty rubber to remove some of these lines. Keep it nice, crisp white edges. I do quite a detailed outline drawing, so that you can use that yourselves if you need to, if your drawing abilities still need to be perfected. You can get the outline drawing on my Patreon site, which is I do a pack there, and you can get all the details of these videos on there, and as well as an A4 printable outline drawing. Just come around taking all the pencil marks off. Pencil I use is a 2B grade pencil, just soft enough to come off quite easily with the putty rubber. Sometimes I just do one wash of this cobalt turquoise, but I'm going to push the colours with this painting. I want them to be strong. I want to show you how effective it can be using strong colours in some of your paintings. Not all your paintings, but in some of your paintings. Try to vary your paintings sometimes, as I do. Brush I'm using is a round brush, and it's a size 8 Rosemary & Co. Designer Series 344. We've got plenty of time to do these parts here because the wash is broken up, so you can just do a section and leave it and then go back to the next section. But when you start a section, finish it. Most times I start top to bottom. Start at the top and bring it down. And always remembering that whatever colour I put on will dry lighter in watercolour. Raw umber and Payne's grey. And sap green. Nice browny grey greeny mix for these distant hills. I only want to do these once, so quite a thick mixture, and doing it in stages because I've got the masts of the yachts there. Just take my time trying to get these masts right. I'm always quite pleased myself if I get these done without going onto the white paper. Just taking my time, stroking the paper, doing that edge first, and then filling in the rest. Leaving the tree as well. That's going to be quite dark, but it's going to be a different colour and it'll look better. You won't see it if I do the leaf shapes in this colour, which is quite dark and obliterates everything. And now doing these bits where the leaves are, painting it, leaving it clear with just that underwash on it. They're going to be green. They'll stand out. They'll stand out better. Not painting over. You've got to remember this is watercolour, so you can go darker, but you can't go lighter. And then this piece here, which is great for silhouetting the umbrellas. Darkest dark and the lightest light. Very pleased with that part of this composition. I've got that brush in my hand doing the bit of shadow on these windows. Always trying to be as efficient as possible when I paint, utilising colours that are to hand on areas. Just a watery wash in the distance there where these figures are, not making too much of them. Now a second wash on this side of the building here. Going to make this look a little bit weathered. Touching into some dark paint as well. I use a John Pike palette, which is a large plastic palette, and I do dip into existing colours on there. I normally spend about somewhere between half an hour and an hour with my paintings, and in that time it still stays quite wet on the palette. You can always reactivate it with a bit of water anyway once it dries. Sepia, nice dark sepia on the base of these boats. Payne's grey added as well. These are another part I'm not going to make, not make too much of, not make them necessarily like any particular kind of boat, just that you can see their boats. And they stand out really well with the cobalt turquoise behind. I want this doorway to be really dark, so just going over it again. Just gone into some raw umber there for these window surrounds. Make of the paints I use is Winsor & Newton primarily, and a few of Jackson's. My palette colours, should you be interested, are from the bottom left: sepia, Payne's grey, French ultramarine, cobalt blue, cerulean blue, cobalt turquoise, and neutral tint up to the top left. And then across the top there's light red, which is top left, raw umber, burnt sienna, raw sienna, quinacridone gold, and then top right is hooker's green. Then going down the right hand side from the top, sap green, cadmium yellow, alizarin crimson, opera pink, cadmium red, jaune brilliant, and lavender. And also I do use white, which I just put some at out of the tube at the bottom of the palette. Now I'm just going over these chairs again. Just want to show you the colour wheel that I use, and that's the complementary colour with the yellow. Use the mauve, and then that will tone the yellow down. You can see what other colours tone other colours down. If you look at the wheel, I always keep that to hand just to remind myself as I go. If I've got a colour like the reds and yellows, how I can just tone them down a bit, because quite often they're a bit too much using the colour on its own and primary colours. Here's a bit I forgot. Bottom of the hill. Bringing that in to showcase these white umbrellas, which are really standing out now, as are the boats and the distant waves as well. Just time to think about where we're going to go next. I've gone into cadmium yellow, and there's a green mixture on the palette, which is kind of sap green, French ultramarine mixed together. I'll be putting a few washes on this tree. You can see how nice it looks now against the dark hill at the back there, even though it's not the lightest of colours. And you can see why you don't have to cut round it with the with your brush when you do the sky, which will make it too difficult. Just go straight over it. Just gives it a nice base. Brush I'm using now is a slightly larger round, which is the size 12 Rosemary & Co designer series, and that's the series 344. Quite often people ask me what brushes am I using, so I always give the exact brushes I use now, and I do use Rosemary's and Co.'s now. Nice dark brown, raw umber, a little bit of neutral tint. Doing this palm tree. Add to the feeling of it being in a hot place. I suppose one, if you could call it a fault with my composition here, is that I put the palm tree central to that umbrella, which I didn't get away with it, but I should have moved it slightly to the right. Putting on to, burnt sienna and some green, making that bright with some dipping into cadmium yellow, a bit too much. Very strong colour, that cadmium yellow. And just moving this burnt sienna mixture around. That's the second wash on there. Now wetting some wet. Just going straight into the paint well and picking up burnt sienna with the tip of the brush. Bring that onto the green, onto the green of the tree. And now I've picked up my rigger brush, which is a size 2 Eclipse rigger from Rosemary and Co. And I'm doing the jagged branches, palms on these palm trees, or just a few here and there, just an impression. Not doing the whole thing. Just letting the viewer know that there's just a little bit of just just the shape of these things, these leaves. Now I've just gone onto the palette and picked some colour up and just doing some shirts on these and tops, or on these people sat there. Opera pink, the middle one, and just a bit of that blue colour on the left hand side. And then doing these few people at the back as well. Got to do something there with the base of that tree to ground it a bit. Still got the rigger brush out in this dark brown colour. I think I'll go around and just do some of these legs of the chairs. And now with some Payne's Grey, just doing a dark band where the boats meet the water. Might need to adjust the shape of that middle boat a bit in a minute. Lots of dark paint now, neutral tint. I decided against what I was going to do now and gone into light red. Do that first before I just do the darks, even though you won't see much of this light red. That's the overhanging roof tiles on this cafe. And just dirtying up the side wall there as well. Putting some more paint on. Putting on and leaving it. Right, now I'm going into Payne's Grey neutral tint with a dark colour and just looking at where I've done these rough pencil lines here and there on the buildings. Just being mindful of perspective with this, that we are looking from an angle where it kind of goes wedge shaped. Tops of the buildings and the bottoms of the buildings head towards the vanishing point in the horizon. So the top will be sloped and the bottom will be sloped. So if you are struggling with perspective, I've done the outline drawing, so you just got to use that. Saves you the hassle of thinking about things like that perspective for the time being. That's a whole new subject on its own. Using the small round brush again. Wasn't happy with the side of that umbrella. Didn't look right. Needed to be straight, so I've just gone over that again. Rescued myself. Just doing this, taking my time and doing the bottom part of these umbrellas. They're very much a feature, and I want this line's got to be right. Your eyes drawn to that. You'll notice it if it's not right. And gone into burnt sienna to put another wash on that lower part of the wall. That shows off those figures quite nicely that are sitting there. Little flashes of white on their heads and shoulders where the sunlight's just catching them. And I'm gone into cobalt turquoise now just to put a little bit of colour on there. I thought the boat shapes was not quite right. And while I'm there, I'm just taking out a little bit of this white line at the back there. I don't want it to look like a tsunami, just the odd wave maybe hitting the shore in the distance. And I hadn't gone far enough over as well, so correcting myself there as well. Yeah, a few corrections here for myself as I'm getting well into the painting here. I think with the when you're going dark against light, you've got to be exact. It does show if you're not with your lines. and then just putting in a bit of green colour. Trying to make this so go too dark, but it is, I want it to be barely dark, this tree. And using the rigger now, just doing the building at the back. Put a small window in there. Having a look around, see where I can put some lines in, just to help the composition. Maybe the rim of this near umbrella. Let's put a little bit of colour there. And put the pole there as well, umbrella pole. Put that in. Just darken up these legs on the chairs there. I'm going to be putting some shadow in soon, which will really bring this to life, add to the painting. It's all part of my composition. Get some nice shadows in. Decided to put another chair in there. There was an empty gap, but I wasn't quite sure what to do with there, so I've put another chair. Put a chair in the gap. Just a little bit of colour on that, just make it like a bit of shade, a little bit of shadow there on that chair. It looks a bit too false if it's just cadmium yellow. Another wash on this doorway, and using the larger round, the size 12. Raw umber, and now mixing up cobalt blue, alizarin crimson, a little bit of French ultramarine. Trying to get a lot of paint here. Doing these shadows. Everything's coming to life here now. Starting to really stand out. This will make it look like a really sunny day. Deep shadows. And now putting it in the foreground there, which is a shadow of, could be anything really, building probably. Doing it in one go. Yeah, I think that's made a big difference to the painting now. Just going around now with the rigger brush. Just put some little marks here and there, really, just to try and age the building a little bit. Now, if you want to paint this scene with me, the full paint along pack is on my Patreon. There's the reference drawing, which is A4. You can print that off and copy it. And the step-by-step notes are all there. I've got a lot of information on how I painted it, what I did, and if you want, you can paint along yourself. It just makes it very convenient. And I do quite a few paintings, so there's going to be more and more paintings there for you to have a go at. I've got a couple of mop brushes here. I've used the slightly bigger mop, actually. It's a size 4 red dot collection mop, and I'm just banging it onto the smaller mop. I've used a larger mop because it holds so much paint, and just getting some what's called spatter on there, which is just to be some marks on the quayside path. Didn't trust myself to spray everywhere. Didn't want to get it on those white umbrellas or the white buildings, so just put some tissue there to just to catch them. There we go. Tap, 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 and a little bit of magic there. You can never do that yourself. It'd take you forever. Wouldn't look right. But this doesn't look too bad. Didn't just want a white quayside. Want it to be stones, whatever. Now I'm not going to use a lot of this here, but white gouache my where my painting failed me, actually, and went over the white. Now I'm just going to put in some little chinks of white where I think they need to be, and I've actually painted over. Just where the sunlight's catching areas. Put my signature on. Just had a couple of bits to didn't look quite right. Need to put some more shadow on. Need to ground this tree for a start, otherwise it looks like it's floating in midair. So just got some of that shadow colour, and going to make some shadow there on the base of the tree and around those couple of chairs and the tree itself. And that darken up a little bit. Just taking out some of that colour with a brush with a little bit of paint on. So that's the focus of this piece. Simple shapes. I did my colour in stages to bring this whole scene to life. And you can see where I strengthened some of the washes and I pushed some of these areas further, and how those extra touches of colour change the feeling of this painting. I'll be removing the masking tape now. just regular masking tape I use. Pull it away from the painting so you don't take any of the paper off, and try putting your masking tape on just before you do the painting so it's not on there too long, otherwise it gets too much of a grip, kind of melts into the paper and takes some of the surface of the paint off. And there we are, put a mount on it so you can see the finished piece. Thanks very much for being with me. Hope you'll try this one, and I'll see you next time.